This movie starts with Demetri preparing for his daytime TV talk show, the number one talk show in America. He interacts with a live audience along with the producers of the show as part of the show. His producers congratulate him for being named Los Angeles' Man of the Year. This was his first time in 20 years of doing the show to win this award. On this show, he gets calls from listeners who are also congratulating him upon this achievement. Among those who called was Cooper. Cooper was his daughter's first boyfriend. By this time, Cooper was selling ice cream on the street to some children as his full-time job. On the call, Cooper continues to promise Demetri that one day he will make enough money and will be back to marry his daughter. Demetri just laughed about it for the show, but among those who called in to the show that day was Maria. Now Maria was watching the show from home. Maria was Demetri's ex-wife. They had separated 10 years ago. When Demetri received this call, it was a pleasant call. They had a sweet conversation and the congregation was eating up every moment. As per the show, Demetri had to choose a dancing partner at the end of each show as the way of closing the show. So Demetri asked the producer to help him choose, and eventually Demetri chose a dancing partner. They had fun on the dance floor of the studio, dancing their hearts out. While on TV, his ex-wife Maria watched and silently wished out loud, wished that they danced like that when they were still together. At the end of the day's work, Demetri goes back home. He had a very clean, neat, nice home. It was lonely. He stayed in the house alone. He lingered around, looked through the window. It was a beautiful view, but he felt alone. He looks at the pictures of his family, his 2 children, and the former wife, who were no longer in his life. He also looks at the picture of his brother, who he lost when he was still a child. In the end, he decided to take some flowers to his brother's grave. While at the cemetery, Demetri prays. As soon as he was done praying, a stranger appears before him in the tree. Demetri looks at this man and wondered where this man came from. Demetri believed he was seeing ghosts, so he decided to call onto the keeper of the cemetery to ask him who this man was, only for the keeper of the cemetery to look around, but he was seeing nobody. It was only Demetri seeing this man. Demetri asked him who he was. He was John, Demetri's guardian angel. Back to the car. John was already in the car, seated in the back seat. Demetri, shocked, demanded that John leaves his car. John leaves the car and kept laughing and smiling. Demetri drove off very fast home, and as if somebody's chasing him. Reaching home, his neighbor calls on to Demetri, reminding him that he left his garage open. Demetri rushed to open his house door, only to find that John was already in the house. Demetri thought to himself, I'm seeing things. So he went very fast to bed and decided to sleep this off. Probably by the time he wakes up, he will be better. Only to reach the bedroom and John was already there. Now Demetri decided to engage him in conversation and asked him, if you are indeed my guardian angel, what did I pray while in the cemetery? When a moment of silence followed, Demetri assumed that John had no idea, so he was not who he proclaimed to be. But thereafter, John repeated every single word that Demetri prayed while at the cemetery. It so happened that while at the cemetery, Demetri prayed to God, asking for help. He prayed that he was lonely. He missed his wife and children. He wanted to have a better relationship with his children who were no longer in his life. John asks Demetri, if you were to go back for a week in your past life, which time of your life would you go back to? To this, Demetri answered that he would go back to 10 years back on this same day, but 10 years back. John asked him why this choice. Demetri informed John that it was their anniversary. The next morning, Demetri woke up and he was 10 years back, waking up with his wife in the same bed. The kids walking, jumping on the bed, and the wife and kids were getting ready for church in a few. Demetri stayed behind because during that time, he never used to go with the family to church. So even when he went back 10 years, he still did not go with the family to church. Demetri was aware that he has gone back 10 years of his life because John was right there with him. Yet only Demetri could see John, nobody else. As the family goes ahead to go to church, Demetri stays home to finish some work. Despite the children asking him to go with them, he could not because he had to be at the studio to finish up with some work. Later that day, Demetri had to pass by the studio to finish some work. He went in to check on his mom after that. His mom had had an accident some years back when Demetri was still a child. And in that accident, they lost the eldest son and a brother to Demetri at a very young age. When that accident happened, his mom blamed herself because she could not save her son. And this did not leave her the same. After visiting his mom, Demetri has a conversation with John. He asked John if his brother was in heaven. To this, John could not respond. John told Demetri, I cannot tell you about that, but all I can tell you is how beautiful heaven is. In this life, Demetri used to miss all moments with his family. But now that he felt like he received a second chance, he was trying his best to be present. He promised his wife to be there for her reunion with high school friends. He also agreed to be there for the couple's dance engagement, which Maria had signed them up for. Maria was shocked as to what has gotten into her husband. Later that time at work, Demetri was trying to beat time so that he can make it for the couple's therapy, which they had to go to with Maria. But despite all that he did, he was unable to get away from work. Work was demanding. He had to stay behind and repeat over and over again until he had things right. On the other hand, Maria sad had to continue with a couple's therapy session without her husband. In this session, she goes ahead to talk about the sacrifices she's making for their marriage and how it feels alone and how she would rather be doing some of these things that they are supposed to be as a couple with her husband, but she never gets a chance to do that, and how she is in the process of selling her camera gears because they remind her that she can no longer do this, which she loves. The next day, Maria went to meet with a friend. Maria had asked Demetri to go with her to meet this friend. If you remember where the movie began from, this is the same friend that Maria was married to at that time after she got divorced from Demetri. Now we are back to this time before Maria ever got engaged with this friend. This friend was going through a divorce, and this friend asked to talk to Maria and Demetri. Demetri had a busy schedule, but because he was trying to do better, he tried to do all he had as quick as possible so he can still make it for this appointment. When Demetri reached through the window of the restaurant, he could see Maria, but Maria was very happy. And when Demetri saw this, Demetri decided in his heart that maybe Maria is better off without him, and she's much happier. So Demetri walked away. While Demetri was having a conversation about this evening with John, John realized that this is the reason why Demetri asked to go back to this particular moment, because this was the moment when everything started to fall apart for Demetri. Since Demetri was going to be in this life for another 5 days, John decided to work with him to change things around for the better. And John started by asking Demetri to be more helpful to his wife. John asked Demetri to let Maria know that he will be picking the kids from school. This is something that Demetri never used to do because Demetri was always at work at about this time. But this time around, John informed Demetri that he will have to figure this out, but he has to make room and space to go pick the kids. So Demetri calls Maria, informs Maria that he'll be picking the kids. Maria was shocked. Maria was too shocked, but at the same time was happy. Maria even started to flirt with John. John was shocked about this because they had lost all romance in the marriage by this time, and at this time, Maria never even wanted Demetri to kiss her goodbye when he's leaving for work. She used to claim it will mess up her makeup. At the office, Demetri, together with a colleague who is also a married man with children, they are coming up with a plan on what to tell the producer party so they can leave work early and go pick their kids from school. So they rehearsed how they're going to be bold, how they're going to face her, and how they're going to speak their minds. As they were rehearsing, puffing themselves up, knowing how important the after work rehearsal was for Patty, they were puffing themselves up to go to Patty and let Patty know that they are cancelling rehearsal today so they can go pick their children from school. While they were still practicing, Patty walks in. When Patty walks in, everybody went silent. She moved past them and nobody said a word. But later, they composed themselves, walked into the room, and went to have a word with Patty. When Patty heard what they had to say, she thought they are joking. She laughed about it, told herself she's not going to lose it because this is a trick to make her anxiety go up. So she decided she's going to take it easy. So she told them, okay, that's all right, you can do that because I know what you're doing. But before she could realize they were serious, they were already out of the door and she could not call them back. She tried, but they were already flying out of the door. Demetri was able to pick up the keys. The traffic was crazy, but he got a good parking spot courtesy of John. John told him he is always with him and he has always made sure that he gets a good parking spot. Reaching home, John sees the kid from the neighborhood, Cooper. Maria comes and Maria informs him Cooper has a mega crush on our daughter Nikki. While Demetri went ahead to have some small talk with Maria about how it went, how picking up the kids went, and everything. Things they never normally talk about these few days since they got married. Okay. They went ahead to have some small chat about the day and how things went, how it was picking up the kids for Demetri. Maria asks Demetri where he's headed to next, and Demetri informed her that he's heading to visit his mom. Now his mom was at the nursing home, and his mom was shocked to see Demetri during this time of the day because Demetri never visits his mom at this time of the day. Demetri wanted to change things and make them better. Demetri had a pleasant visit, asked his mom to come attend one of the shows. To this, his mom laughingly agreed, but also cautioned him to get her own driver. To this, Demetri agreed, and it was settled that he will pass by the show someday. In another scene, Demetri is at home. John reminds him not to skip couples therapy. Later that day, Maria went to the couples therapy. She shared the things that attracted her to Demetri. She shared how Demetri was always there for her and how Demetri needed her. Maria mentioned they used to do those dumb things when they had just gotten married. The therapist asked her why she's no longer doing those things. Maria mentioned that they no longer make sense because they are dumb things. The therapist told Maria that she should keep doing those things because those things communicated to Demetri that I love you, I'm here for you. Upon this realization, Maria was starting to get emotional, to think that those small things that she used to do used to have such an effect on Demetri. While she was still getting emotional, Demetri walked in. Maria was shocked, but at the same time pleased to see him because it's been a long time since he ever showed up with her to the therapist appointment. The next time on the show, beknownst to the producer, Demetri had everything planned. He was planning to bring a surprise guest on the show in the cooking segment. The surprise guest was his mom. His mom was happy to be there. The congregation welcomed him with claps and the crowd was eating up everything. Demetri's mom told stories of how she lost her son and how cooking got her through the mourning period and helped her to move on. She continued to tell the stories while cooking at the same time. It was beautiful to see. It was at that moment while Demetri's mom was explaining all this, Demetri looked at John and realized that actually John was his brother, the brother he lost when they were children. Johnny, his older brother, who died in the car accident those years ago. Later that day after the show, they talked. It was an emotional talk. Demetri cried and wished they had more time together growing up. But they decided, since Demetri had 3 more days, that they would be having the best days of their lives. The days that followed, Demetri randomly asked his wife one day, Maria, to dance as she was putting down packages from grocery shopping. And the days that followed were full of fun, dancing, creating memories between Maria and Demetri, Demetri and Johnny, and Demetri's mom. As a couple, Demetri and Maria started doing all those damn cute things they used to do when they had just gotten married. Later on one day, at 10 o'clock in the night, while the kids were asleep, Demetri hears a knock at the door. It was Cooper, the boy next door. Cooper had carried a big tin of ice cream and he wanted to share it, to have some ice cream with Nikki. Demetri asked Cooper if his parents knew that he was wandering outside at this time. To this, Cooper informed Demetri that his dad left them some time back and his mom went to work. Cooper was a lonely child, but Cooper informed Demetri that he loves Nikki and wants to spend more time with Nikki. Demetri encouraged Cooper to instead spend more time reading and paying attention to his homework so he can get good grades. Nikki didn't see a reason for paying attention to homework, but after talking to Demetri, he promised Demetri that he will pay more attention and work harder. Demetri informed Cooper that after he works hard, he can always come see Nikki on weekends and they can probably do some homework together or spend time together. To this, Cooper agreed and Cooper promised that he's going to work hard. The next day in the couple's therapy, Maria and Demetri both talked to the therapist, and during that time Demetri shared about the sacred meaning of the crowns the priest lays on the couple's head during marriage and its significance. Remember when we began the movie, when Demetri went to his empty apartment, he kept holding on to these crowns because he kept the crown even after their divorce. But now, in this moment, he shares more about the significance of this crown. The only time that ribbon connecting the 2 crowns is to be cut is when one partner walks away. And during this therapist visit, Demetri informed the therapist that he does not plan to ever cut that ribbon until God calls one of them home. After the therapy, he had a quick rush to work. The producers were mad because Demetri was running in late. Demetri rushed to get to every bit of the last-minute preparations for the show. Then Johnny appears and asks Demetri to call Maria right now. To that, Demetri thought there is no reason to call her since he was just with her this very morning. But nevertheless, he called. Maria was so shocked to receive a call from Demetri. She kept wondering, aren't you busy? How come you got some time to call me? But Demetri went on to say hello, to ask about what she's doing. Johnny decided to help out Demetri. Johnny had the words that Demetri would say written on placards of paper, so Demetri just kept reading, and Maria was getting flustered. Maria was falling more and more in love with Demetri. Maria informed Demetri that she's looking forward to the show and to the dance that Demetri was going to perform that very day on the show. Now, Demetri had already told the producer that they should script the dance, despite how much the producer thought the dance should it be removed. Demetri just didn't want to dance, but after talking to Maria, that was enough to fuel up Demetri for the dance. Maria ran to the TV screen, and on her way to the TV screen, she decided to put on some makeup. She had full makeup on while watching TV, as if Demetri was going to see her through the TV screen. But Maria was not stopping. She was daydreaming about her husband while she was watching this show. Maria's friend was wondering what has gotten into her. Maria was falling over and over in love again with Demetri. Demetri had to even give her compliments on his live TV show right before he did the dance. By the end of the show, Maria and her friend were on their feet dancing along the show. We move to the next scene where Demetri goes to check on his mom with Johnny. Remember, his mom still cannot see Johnny. Only Demetri can see Johnny. So they start asking the mom about who was better, Johnny or Demetri, who was good, who was the best when it comes to work, who was more intelligent, and on and on and on. Just because Johnny wanted to show Demetri that he was better, but at the same time Demetri wanted to show Johnny that he was better. It was a nice conversation, though the mom could not see Johnny. Back home, Demetri decided to go with the whole family to church. This was the first in a very long time. Maria had so much fun in the process. Maria teased him whether he still remembers if that picture in front of the church is a picture of Jesus. After church, they went back, and while having family dinner, the kids asked some questions and had some small talk with Demetri. The kids were grateful to have gone to church with their dad. His son told him he wished that their dad would spend more time with them. Nikki later on, so it was sold. Later on that day, around the fire in the evening, Nikki asks his dad about this poem that they were given as a school assignment. Demetri knew the poem very well. Demetri recited the poem. Demetri, along with Maria, explained this poem to Nikki. At the end of their explanation, Nikki asked if this poem is a good or bad story. They informed her that it is both. It has the good side and the bad side. Nikki mentioned she hopes that her parents never divorce, and Maria said never. The next day, Maria was ready for work, and Demetri, with the help of Johnny, was working on a surprise for Maria, a surprise romantic dinner, which was well prepared. Demetri walked in wearing his tuxedo, which he wore on their wedding day. Beautiful food, sweet conversation. The romantic dinner was such a success. Maria loved it, and Maria loved Demetri. Back home, Cooper comes rushing onto the door of Demetri and plugs his schoolwork paper on the door. It had A. He had scored A+ in his paper. Back to the dinner, the couple shared a romantic kiss in the restaurant, and they decided they need to take this back home. When they reached home, Demetri saw the paper that Cooper had plucked on the door. He took it, and as they were having some more time with Maria, kissing and loving onto each other, Nikki decides to walk down. Nikki decides to have some biology questions to ask the mom right in the middle of the night. Maria was not having this. Maria wanted Nikki to leave. So Maria started convincing Nikki of how she's got to go back to bed. But as Nikki was about to go back to bed, their son walked in too. Now their son claimed he was hungry and needed something to eat. Maria has had it. Maria picked the two kids in their night attires, asked reminded them of how they've been asking to spend some more time with their grandma. This was the day, so Maria dropped both kids at her mom's place in their nightgowns with all their homework and everything they need for school the next day, and asked the mom to remember to drop them to school the next day. But while at home before Maria arrived, Johnny decided to make Demetri do some work on his physique so he can be ready for the evening. So Demetri did press-ups, did weightlifting until Maria reached the door. When Maria had pulled in, Johnny sprayed some cologne on Demetri just so they can confuse the body sweat. When Maria reached home, the couple decided to go spend some time by the pool. They started dancing together, had a very romantic night. The next morning, Demetri wore the same tuxedo, dancing in the kitchen while Maria makes breakfast. Demetri promised Maria that he plans on wearing this tuxedo every day, just in remembrance of last night. That morning, Demetri had his breakfast, and as he was headed out of the door, Maria followed him outside and asked, "Where is my kiss?" Demetri reminded her that she does not like her makeup getting messed up in the morning. Maria was not having this, not today. She gave him a hot one that even the neighbors, her best friend who was cutting grass outside, they too got flustered. When Maria went back in, she reached the bedroom. She found a package that was left behind by her husband with a knot on. Demetri had brought back all her camera gears which she had sold off. And in the knot, Demetri asked Maria to keep pursuing her goals, to not give up on her dreams, because she does good photography. Maria was so moved. At the studio, as Demetri was getting ready to sign the contract on the show, he spotted his wife coming to the studio, holding her camera in hand with a smile. Demetri pauses everything, gets a chair, sits, and tells everyone about following their dreams and how that is so important. He also goes ahead to tell them about the woman he loves and how this woman takes such beautiful photos that are breathtaking. He also informed the audience and the producer still going to sign this contract for the show, but he plans to do things a bit different. He wants to keep doing his live show and serve the audience that come to watch the show live, but he also wants to be a full-time husband to his wife, and he also wants to be a full-time son to his mom. At the end of the show, for the first time, Demetri calls in to his wife, Maria, and they did the dance to close off the show. Beknownst to anybody, Demetri knew that it was his last day. So Demetri says goodbye to his mom. His mom gives Demetri a compilation of all her recipes. Demetri went on to say goodbye to the kids too, but the hardest was to say goodbye to his wife Maria. He kept postponing, even tried asking Johnny if they could postpone the time to go on Monday. To this, Johnny could not grant it. Demetri asked Johnny if he will remember him when he goes back to his life. Johnny informed Demetri that he won't, but Johnny will be there with him every step on the way. Johnny also encouraged Demetri to find a way to say goodbye because he doesn't want to go without saying goodbye to Maria. Demetri wished he could wake up with Maria the next day. That night, Demetri went to bed holding Maria, wishing he could wake up holding her. But he knew things are going to be different in the morning. The next day, Demetri woke up alone in the bed, back to his old life. He got a call from his neighbor, reminding him that he left his garage open. When he got off the call, he saw a small note and his suit on the bed. And Maria walks in, asking why he's still not dressed. He quickly got up, hugged her so tightly. He could not believe she was here. He kept saying, "You're here, you're here, you're here." In the room, his son and wife were also present. The next day in the studio, Demetri had to call on a new guest. Demetri didn't know who the guest was because he kept reading the prompter for who is coming next, only for Cooper to walk in as a grown man, well dressed and looking very responsible. Apparently, Cooper was the guest on the show. Cooper thanks his father-in-law and goes on to give a speech. In his speech, Cooper thanked his mother-in-law and all the achievements she has accomplished. All her success began with a gift she received from her husband 10 years ago. Maria comes on stage to thank everyone for the award. She was celebrating receiving the award, the Los Angeles Person of the Year award. At the end of her speech, she called onto Demetri and playfully danced and entertained everyone. As they drove off later after the show, Maria was surprised they got good parking spot, only for Johnny to drive by, hooting at them. They looked at him, but they could not know who he was. Remember, Johnny always makes good parking for them, right? When they looked at him, they all said at once, it feels like deja vu. They laughed it off. And Maria mentioned that she's realizing that their marriage was made in heaven. The end. Now, what other lessons do you learn from this movie? I learned that sometimes in the pursuit of a career, we can neglect important relationships like that of our spouses, of our children, and when we are at the top of the ladder, and when we reach the top of a career ladder, we look around and it is lonely because the people who loved us, the people we loved, the people we worked hard for, were left behind in the process of us pursuing these things. So it's important to find a balance, to still pursue your dreams, but at the same time, make time for the people who love you, the people you love, your family, your wife, your children. That's what I'm learning. What do you learn from this movie? Is it a movie you'd consider watching now?